All right, it's another Tuesday night. NWA Power wrapped a few hours ago. The other yellow and black brand is presently running in its overtime position. And Zach Ralph here, and I'm joined by guest co-host Ella J. Ella, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you today, Zach?
I am doing good. Thanks for joining me on the show, of course. I'm probably going to be repeating these pleasantries when we go to the show proper, but I do want to emphasize that this is just the pre-show. LJ and I are just chit-chatting. If you want to join us, please leave a comment and let us know what's going on with you. And we're just waiting for NXT to finish it up so we can start talking NWA Power. Ella, just before we went on air, you were talking that you're going to your first indie show. What promotion are you going to?
It's for Empire State Wrestling, which is one of the two pretty premier independent promotions here in Buffalo, New York. So I am super excited. It's their first event back like in over a year and a half. So I'm super stoked.
That's exciting. Have they announced anything on the card yet, or is it still like very up in the air?
No, they literally just announced the day and location like 3-4 days ago. So nothing is set in stone yet, but I'm sure we'll be getting some surprises because the talent they've had in the past is some premier talent.
Amazing. Absolutely. So like we were also talking how like New York has really just New York is open for business again.
Pretty much so. Yeah. A lot of the other states are behind the curve. New York, it really hit their 70% vaccination rate. So our governor of the state, Cuomo, pretty much everything is pretty much back open. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. I'm still going to wear mine because again, like I don't trust people. And plus I work with the public and everything for my essential working job. So, I mean, we're pretty much open. Like I said, I went to my first baseball game last week. It was super fun, but also strange. But New York is pretty much getting back to things now. It's an exciting time.
Right on. Yeah, like I feel like I'm in the same boat in regards to masks. Like I don't know when I'll feel comfortable not wearing one again. But you know, it's all good news. Like, well, I mean, knock on wood, because you never know. But it's nice to have some good news, you know, locally speaking.
Of course, yeah, and like you said, like it's so weird because I'm just so used to wearing it now. Like at my job, wearing it like 9-10 hours a day, where I'm like, it is what it is. I'm just used to it. So I don't know. It's gonna be so strange.
Yeah. I mean, strange is the way forward, it seems. I'm starting to see people starting to roll into the lobbies on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Just to let you know, we're just in a pre-show phase. We're just chit-chatting while we wait for the other black and yellow brand to wrap up. No video, asked WrestlePlug. No, just clarifying. We're just chit-chatting while NXT wraps up. And if you want to let us know what you thought of NXT, what you thought of NWA Power, you know, now's the time to do it. We're just keeping it very casual right now. And you were just coming off of an IG live stream as well. You're pretty much jumping from one broadcast to another.
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't get a chance to catch NXT tonight because I was editing, and then hopped on an spontaneous IG live. So I really only got to catch up from what my timeline said tonight. So thank goodness for Twitter sometimes, right?
Right, yeah. Like I haven't actually been watching WWE in like a few years, but like I still, just by virtue of following this, that, and the other on Twitter, I seem like I feel pretty well versed in what's happening.
Pretty much so, yeah. Most of the time I miss it because I'll be at my shoot job. So half the time I have to watch it the next day, or I can only follow along with Twitter and everything. But it's really a helpful tool. Thank goodness for live tweeting, right?
Absolutely. Mr. Spencer Love is giving me a standby. He says the victor of the main event has just been declared, and I'm not going to leave any spoilers just in case anyone's planning on watching NXT just afterwards. I hear you, James. Haven't watched one WWE show in 10 years. That's impressive. That's very impressive because, like, considering how big WWE has, they've been the only fish in the pond for how a better part of those 10 years. So good on you, sir. Let us know what you're watching, James. Let's what you've been watching over this past decade.
See, I'm like the exact opposite. For a while, that would be the only thing I would watch up until 2 years ago. Pretty much.
When like AEW started and such?
That plus, like, I really discovered independent wrestling. Well, I knew independent wrestling was a thing, but I really didn't get that invested in it until I pretty much started my podcast, honestly. So, I mean, that's really when that's why another reason why I have never been to an independent show, excluding next month will be my first one. So I was pretty much only WWE, pretty much. And then, like, Impact. I would watch TNA and stuff, and occasionally Ring of Honor, but it was like almost exclusively WWE for like my first 10 years as a wrestling fan.
Right on, right on. James's picks are ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling and Power. Good choices, friend. Good choices, absolutely. Bit of trivia. Ella, I was listening to you on Spencer's Mind Behind podcast, and speaking of like the origins of your podcast, I understand that the original name was something along the lines of NWA's upcoming show, something along the lines of Empower.
Yeah, and so when Mickey told me the name, like before it was announced, I was like, everything is literally coming full circle, and everything like this last year has been so ironic. Yeah, that was literally almost the name of my podcast. Like I had made the Twitter account and everything for it, and then I decided on a wrestling gal instead. Like I said, it's crazy how the world works. When I found that, I was like, that is so ironic, Mickey.
Coincidences, forever proving that coincidences exist.
Yeah, it's really crazy the amount of coincidences I've been happening lately, though. Honestly, it's kind of weird.
Now, like, this isn't exactly a news breaking show. This is just our reaction to NWA Power as per usual. But, you know, you work close with Mickey James. Like, I have half a mind to be like asking Empower related questions. How far will I get if I ask these questions?
Probably not very far because because I do not want to break her trust, and plus I don't want to ruin the surprise again. I don't know everything. I do know some stuff, but everything again isn't finalized.
Sure.
I know a couple of the names on the potential card, but again, nothing is finalized, so I don't want to spoil anything and then be wrong. And plus, I wouldn't do that to her. I'll let her break the news unless she wants me to, you know.
Totally fair. I will certainly refrain from, I will twist my own arm into refrain from asking such questions, but I just got the okay go from Spencer. We're about to go live with our official PowerrrOut. Thanks for joining us on the pre-show. Ella J and I will be back right after the, after Mr. J sets the tone.
Oh, Josh is here. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's PowerrrOut. Yeah, it's PowerrrOut.
Oh, I forgot to turn off the overlay. I had a whole minute and some change to turn that off, but here we are.
Hi,
Hello.
I loved that intro. Honestly, I was bopping along to it. You guys couldn't see it, but I was dancing along to it.
That was the one and only Mr. J, the enigmatic voice behind Poetry of a Promo. He's responsible for the lyrics. He's responsible for the guitar line and everything else. And he's actually responsible for the name too, so he's kind of like the unofficial godfather of this show, I suppose we could call him.
Okay. Also, hi, Rye. Hi, Josh. Hi, Joseph. Hi, James. Hi, everybody.
We've got a good house joining us in the comment section. Absolutely. Josh Robinson, Rye Levy, like just a frequent. He's appeared on PowerrrOut twice, and it's been an absolute pleasure to host him each and every time. James, Joseph, glad to see all these familiar faces joining us here tonight on PowerrrOut, because it is indeed PowerrrOut. NWA Power wrapped a few hours ago. We stood by while the other black and yellow brand wrapped up their business, and we're here live. I am joined by my guest co-host. She's the editor of Grown Ass Woman. She is a writer at WrestleZone and the host of a Wrestling Gal podcast, Ella J. Thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you. And Josh, you're going to make me blush. I see you there in the comments. Thank you so much for having me today, Zach. It's an absolute honor, and I can't wait to talk about everything today.
It was a pretty eventful show, considering they're on the road to 2 pay-per-views, of course, EMPOWERRR, NWA 73. But before we take our deep dive into a pretty eventful show, I want to pick your brain about this. Mickie James confirming today that she's looking for an opponent at NWA 73. She's already made a splash. Twitter's talking all about it. Let's just get our speculation hats on. Who would you want to see Mickie James fight at the event?
I tweeted it out today, but my choice is the Impact Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo. However, I could also see it being Chelsea Green. I mean, we were robbed of them in WWE. We never even got to see the match that they literally recorded. And so, I mean, I know Chelsea wants in on the pay-per-view too, so maybe. What about you?
Yeah, I'm really leaning towards Chelsea Green myself. They really did a great job building the intrigue about the match that unfortunately never happened. I've seen also a little speculation about Ruby Riott, Heidi Lovelace. I'm partial to that, but if Heidi was on the card, I would want to see her mix it up with someone else. Keep the WWE talent, ex-WWE talent, in separate matches. Chelsea Green's a bit of an exception because, again, they laid that groundwork so well, and it would be a shame for that to just be, remiss.
See, I don't know, though, if Ruby's 90-day non-compete clause is up by then. I don't believe it is. I don't think it's up till, early September, so the week or two after, though, unfortunately. Oh. So I thought about that today because people were saying Ruby Riott and all that, but I was I don't think her 90-day non-compete clause will be up by then, unfortunately.
I mean, I still hope she'll be on the show. I'm crossing my fingers. I know it's unlikely, but I know that I think it was Cutler has made his Impact Wrestling debut. So maybe there's something to some substance to the reports that some of these talents are in fact getting released from their 90-day no compete clause, and we can only hope Ruby Riott is part of that.
Fingers crossed.
What do you think this means for Mickie James on the EMPOWERRR card? Do you think she's going to have a spot, or is she going to be more so focused on producing the event?
No, she's definitely firm, as far as I'm aware anyway, in staying behind in Gorilla and really fully embodying her executive producer. Like she said, I believe in her interview with Chris Van Fleet, she's fully prepared to kind of take a back seat, except maybe to wave and kind of introduce pay-per-view, but she's really in executive producer mode for this pay-per-view, behind the stage in Gorilla with the headset on and everything, producing it. So I mean, maybe if it's an impromptu match, but I really think she's fully set on fully embodying her executive producer role.
Totally fair. Keep it to one hat per event. I like Josh's pick, though. I have to bring this up here. Chelsea and Mickie versus the Iconics, or what's the new copyrighted name? The
Inspiration.
The Inspiration. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you get the Iconics, the Inspiration on my screen, I'm a happy Zach. So if that happens, I'll be jumping.
That would be a great matchup. I am all about tag team matchups too, especially with Chelsea and Mickie, because now they finally have the chance to really do Mickie versus Trish 2.0. So
absolutely, I think that would be a great venue for such a show. But we are, of course, reacting to tonight's episode of NWA Power. As usual, we're just going to kind of go segment by segment. We'll talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and that's where. Let's get on the train, I suppose. I need a better sign on. Get on the train. What is that? That was
whoop,
Enter Braun Strowman. Show kicks off with Joe Galli, Tim Storms, Velvet Sky at the desk. They're hyping the event. We got Deeb and Thunder Rosa in the women's division summit. We got the Mystery Man versus Mims, the triple threat qualifier main event, and the Kyle Davis is kicking it off with Strictly Business. Davis asks about everyone's position in Strictly Business, because all this has been alluding that, not everyone is safe. Their position in Strictly Business is not guaranteed, but all this just deflects the question. This allows Adonis and Tom Latimer, to discuss their position in the main event tonight. It's kind of par for the course for the show to kick off with Strictly Business. I really didn't think Nick Aldis needed to be out here. What did you think of the segment?
It really sets up the show, though, that they have to set up the show, obviously, and I think Nick Aldis, especially going into the 73 show, really should have a prominent spot on the card, right? Like, sure. He's kind of the champion, the guy who's running the show. So I think it was a fair spot, I would think, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like in recent weeks, it's kind of, this is what we've seen at the top of the show. Like, even if Aldis is not directly involved in anything, he's just kind of there, picking on poor Joe Galley, or alluding to his growing conflict with Billy Corgan. It's just that kind of felt like spinning its tires to me anyway. I just felt like you could have accomplished the very same segment without him, and with just his cohorts in Strictly Business, who will be, of course, competing against one another / alongside one another in the main event.
Full disclosure, guys, too, I don't watch NWA Power every week, so if I don't know what I'm talking about, don't blame me.
There's no blame to be tossed around. Okay, hold on one second. I have been having problems on recent weeks. My cat keeps jumping up on this table. Ticket, do you want to say hello before I spray you? And no, to stand back?
I have 2 cats. I completely understand.
Okay, I'm just getting this over with. Go, go, go. I don't like doing that, but he's been a serious pain. He disrupted the last broadcast like several times. It's not happening again. And again, the NWA really lacks a bit of an entry point for new fans. Like, they put this the program, which is a solid program, they've put it behind a paywall though, and there's very little enticement for new fans to jump in. I am so happy to have you on the show, Ella. Like, I've had guests who aren't entirely familiar with the whole product of NWA, but are jumping in because of one particular aspect, and it leads to great conversation. And I like to hope that it leads to new fans seeing an angle in which they could jump into the NWA. So sincerely, thank you so much for being part of the show tonight.
Of course, and I'm pretty much going to have to get familiar with it, so I'm not going into this pay-per-view and be like, who is who, like, what is going on? So I'm pretty much going to need to familiarize myself.
If there is any questions, like, I am more than happy to clarify or whatnot. So we move on. We move on to another talking segment. We get May Valentine backstage with the War Kings. Crimson has asked for a grudge match against Slice Boogie. There's been this escalating conflict between the War Kings and Slice Boogie for weeks. Crimson doesn't really understand why Slice Boogie has kind of interjected himself into their business, but he's gonna put a stop to it. They got a grudge match tonight. I think we can probably talk more about this when the match itself happens. But do you have a takeaway you wanted to about the segment?
Now, is this the same? No, I'm thinking of somebody else right now. So disregard that. But I mean, if they're going to lead up to a grudge match, they definitely need to build some tension between each other. And so it seems like they're doing that. And again, I'm not too familiar with a lot of these talent, but if you're going to lead up to a grudge match, you need to have some intense moments and actual storyline going on here. So in your opinion, though, as somebody who actively watched, do you think that this is a storyline worth investing in so far?
It's been good. It's been really good. I really like Slice Boogie. He's been like one of my favorite people to watch since NWA came back. I was not familiar with him going in, and I just love his attitude, his demeanor, his ring work. He's got a finisher called the Dead Ass Driver, which is my favorite name for a finishing move right now.
Driver.
It's so great. Anyway, he's had some really great matches with his tag partner Marche Rocket against the War Kings. He's had a great singles match against Dane a few weeks ago. This conflict is going somewhere. I really like it. And yeah, this set the tone certainly for the grudge match main event. We move on finally to the first match of the evening, though. We get Mims taking on the Masked Man, the Mystery Man, the fellow with the star on his mask. yeah, nice technical match between Mims and the Masked Man. Commentary continues to allude that this mystery man, we don't know his purpose. We don't know what he's doing here. But we know that Billy Corgan knows. We know that this person is here to serve Billy Corgan's grand design, whatever it may be. Mystery Man pretty much has control for the entire match with a little flourish of offense by Mims, but Mystery Man finishes off Mims with a sling blade and a cartwheel DDT. What did you think of this match?
Sounds like an athletic guy, this Mystery Man. So it's probably a high flyer again. Like, we don't really know who it is. Who do you have an idea?
Well, I'm going to keep it kayfabe. I don't want to put any spoilers for anyone who's listening to the podcast, listening or watching live. It's not going to be someone who like they reveal and like, oh my God, it's Kane. No, it's not going to be anyone like that. Like, I have to imagine they're going to keep the mask on him and maybe let him develop into a new character. But this is a talented performer. He's had a couple appearances here and there on like programs like AEW Dark and whatnot. But it's not going to be a big flourish when he finally unmasks. But other than that, pretty good stuff, pretty good match. Mims didn't really get a lot of offense, but what he did looked really good. He has one hell of a clothesline that he just nearly took Masked Man's head off.
I mean, you got to have some high moments, especially too. It's important to balance out if you're having like a high offensive and athletic person. Sometimes it's cool to have them go against like a more technical person too. Like their styles mesh well together, or sometimes they don't. But I mean,
yeah, I felt like this one worked. This was a hit for me, this match. James on YouTube asked a good question. I've been wondering about this myself, and I don't want to deter too far away from our reaction to the card itself. I wonder if it'll be a $19.99 per night as per the usual NWA pay-per-view price, or if the dual pay-per-views will be like a Fight TV package deal, and you get for one both pay-per-views. I don't have any insight on that. I just hope that that's the case as well. Like maybe I think those are reasonably priced pay-per-views, but to pay for two in one weekend, I think it's a bit of a stretch.
Nothing's finalized yet. I can tell you that right now. Tickets and the stuff for a fight are not even finalized yet. So I mean, it's possible, but as of a couple days ago, nothing was really finalized for tickets. Or I just found out I was on Fight TV, honestly, earlier today when Mickey made the announcement. So we'll see.
How about that? You were on Fight TV itself?
Well, they announced earlier today that the pay-per-views are going to be on Fight TV. So,
I just figured that was a given.
I'm again. I don't know everything.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Your cheering section continues to grow in the comment section. From Ed Freeze, good friend of the show. Growing member of the Love Wrestling team. LJ can't wait to get watch us back on video on demand. It's true, we are live, but this is going to be available on demand afterwards. It's also going to be available on a podcast. So whether you're joining us live or after the fact on video or on podcast, thanks so much for catching Power Out this evening. The next segment, we got a bit of a handicap match situation. We got Black G's versus Jordan Clearwater. Black G's and Jordan Clearwater working together. They're starting off with an interview with Kyle Davis. Clearwater's really not enthused about this match he's about to go into, but G sells him. He says he has a plan. They get into the match with Austin Idol's client. And the story of the match is just Black G's lying on the mat, accepting a pinfall, and trying to coax Jordan Clearwater into doing the same and lying right beside him. And that's the back and forth of the match. Jordan Clearwater keeps trying to leave the ring, and Black G's brings him back, and eventually they both accept defeat, and a lot of confusion in this segment.
Yeah, like for me, being an entry show, I mean, again, maybe you have to watch every week to see consistent pattern telling, but if you're saying you're confused and you watch regularly, I think that's a little bit of a problem.
The gist of it is Black G's. Well, a few weeks ago, Austin Idol and client, they were cutting a promo. Black G's came out and he he says he has a business proposal for them. Didn't really amount to anything. They left. They walked off together. All good. Next week, same kind of deal, but this time Jordan Clearwater comes out. He says he represents Black G's. wants to talk to them. They go off, they talk together, whatever. And then we lead to this handicap match where the two men with the advantage, they just accept defeat, lie down. And again, I am not, by virtue of who's involved, it's hard for me to get invested in this program. So, I'm confused, but I think I'm okay with that.
Fair enough. I'm going to have to keep watching going forward to even be able to comprehend.
And even when you keep watching, who knows where this is going to go, and if it will reach a sensical point for us to finally understand.
Sometimes wrestling just doesn't make sense. Like, I thought WWE logic sometime was like, what? But I mean, I guess wrestling's imperfect, so.
Absolutely. Like there's this bit of like this, I don't want to say it's a cop out because I think it's very fair, but people say like, oh, wait, let it play out. Let's see where it goes. And, this felt like a loose end, so I can definitely understand that. But a lot of that time that, oh, let's see where it goes, it just ends up going nowhere. James, I'm with you 100%. I'm hoping this goes away with this storyline. That would be, if this was the end of it, I would not lose a wink sleep.
Okay.
Next segment, we get the women's division summit, beginning with Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. They both start angling their case as the number one contender to Camille's women's championship. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I know it turned into a shoving match. And I mean, I think Serena kind of gets the ultimate like step at first because she's entitled to a rematch. So, I mean, I get it, though. At least they're pushing this championship picture. But I think Serena should really be in line first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly see that there is contention there because I haven't been following AEW, so like if maybe you can correct me, maybe someone in the comments can correct me, but I don't know if Thunder Rosa got her rematch after Serena Deeb defeated her.
I don't believe so. Now that you say that,
okay, so like I think they both have a case, and of course Thunder Rosa has just gone toe to toe with Camille a handful of times. And it's been really great contests and really great television coming out of it. So they both have their case. At which point, Kyle Davis affords them the opportunity to introduce who they think the top prospects are of the women's division. Serena Deeb welcomes the one and only Kylie Rae. Always happy to see Kylie Rae. She comes out. She's Kylie Rae. And then the Thunder Rosa, before she's able to introduce Sky Blue, Melina comes out. She steals the show a little bit, but eventually it all just falls into shoving and fisticuffs. This felt like the first bit of groundwork towards building the actual EMPOWERRR card, so I'm happy to see that. I'm also really happy to see the women's division get a nice, timely segment. Like this one got a lot of time. Not all of it clicked for me, but I was happy to see it. I was happy that they had that time.
I'm happy too that it's kind of growing, even though like Sky is not officially on the roster. Like, oh, I love Sky Blue so much. And I've had the great opportunity to speak with her on my own podcast. And she is up and coming, and she's really rising on like the independent scene. Like one of the fastest rising stars, I would say, outside of like Roxy right now in women's wrestling. And so to see her kind of really garner some great buzz over these last few months, ever since coming to NWA, I think is fantastic. And plus, we have Kylie Rae on the other side, who's now officially signed with NWA, and I think this is really a really great step forward to building towards EMPOWERRR. And then you have veterans like Melina and Serena Deeb, and obviously your new NWA Women's World Champion Camille. I'm so excited.
The card is beginning to shape out, and again, like there's so much promise in this roster, and it's so surprising to be able to say that about an NWA women's division. NWA is just typically this boys club, and like they're really investing in the women's division, and I'm so happy to see it. James, no, sorry, wrong comment. Joseph, Mighty Joe. I could watch Serena and Rosa wrestle forever. Two of the best right now. Absolutely. If we do not get another Thunder Rosa Serena Deeb match on this build to EMPOWERRR or at EMPOWERRR itself, I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, I think at the Empower pay-per-view, they need to have like the NWA Women's Championship though at stake. So maybe if they're gonna do both, maybe have that be the first matchup, and then the winner faces Camille in like the main event or something.
Mhm.
But or again, maybe on one of these episodes of NWA Power leading up, then you can finally determine the number one contender, then properly build whoever the actual competitor is for Camille. I think Serena and Rosa would be great, but I also want Camille and Kylie. Oh, it's so tough.
That story tells itself. Kylie versus Camille. Oh, that would be a special match, I think.
I want it. I have so many high hopes for Kylie right now that she's back and returning to wrestling. I think everybody Kylie Rae is one of the biggest fan bases and support systems around her. I just think anything she does is gold, honestly.
Oh, and yeah, you're far from alone. Like she is just an absolute talent, and she's just got this magnetic presence that just you can't help but root for. Where do you think Sky Blue is like? What's she going to be up to at Empower? You think?
I don't know. I mean, if she's kind of hanging with Melina, maybe they'll be in a tag team matchup. Melina and Sky against Taryn and maybe like a Lady Frost. Genocide, maybe? Taryn and Genocide, Taryn and Lady Frost.
Yeah, that kind of leads to the next segment. Taryn Terrell, she kind of gave her pick for her top prospect. This was, of course, removed from the Kyle Davis, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb segment with everyone involved. But yeah, Taryn Terrell, she kind of puts Genocide over. She said like Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, you're like, yay, you're both wrong. It's Genocide right here.
I mean, pretty much you have like a veteran and a newer talent, and then you have a veteran and a newer talent. I mean, that pretty much has a tag team matchup written all over. It's right there. Book it, Mickey. Come on.
I think I'm glad that this had like a segment to itself. It had a little more room to breathe. I felt like if they tried to like squeeze it into the women's summit with everyone else, I think that would have been a bit of a disservice, not just to Genocide, but also to everyone else who had put the work into that segment. And yeah, James, couldn't agree with you more, man. That's a good problem to have when there is too much quality on women's NWA talent now. Absolutely, that roster is fast becoming like full in the best possible way.
They just need to lock people in, because right now they only have officially 5 women, but they need to lock Sky, they need to lock Lady Frost, Genocide, and even Kenzie Page. Like, I think those would be great additions to like nine women is like a pretty standard. I mean, Raw and SmackDown at one point had 9 or 10 women on each roster. I think that's a pretty plausible roster right there to be official.
Absolutely. Where was I going with this? Oh, forgive me. It'll come back to me. But yeah, like the card is shaping up, and like I'm just happy to see that they actually announced this event, and they haven't been resting on their laurels. Like, oh, we announced it, now we can just go back to being, everyday NWA. They're investing in the women's division, and I'm so thrilled to see it. Unfortunately, we do not get a women's match, but we do move on to that grudge match that was hyped up early in the card. Slice Boogie along with Marche Rocket against Crimson and Dane. Again, this felt like a grudge match. This was two guys who just didn't like each other, and they had business to take care of. They're back and forth. They're hitting hard. Slice Boogie is the one who's really taking advantage of the no disqualification stipulation. But it's not so much him who's, who takes advantage of it at the end. Slice Boogie, he's in a position where he's just like begging for mercy. He can't take it anymore. It's, of course, a fig out. He goes to strike Crimson, only to eat a Death Valley driver. But again, Crimson, he's got a mean streak in him. He doesn't go for the 3 count. He pulls him up. He goes for the chair. But Jack Dane, his own tag team partner, he comes up, he grabs the chair, pulls it away. He's like, don't do this, man. You don't need it. You're done. Finish it. And fine, Crimson, let's go. He goes and he hits a second Death Valley driver. 1, 2, 3. Again, really good grudge match energy. That's my initial takeaway from this one. What'd you think of this one?
It's a solid grudge match, and it definitely has the potential to even if it's again, if it's a grudge match, maybe they move on afterwards. But I think that really has the potential to go forward in this feud and maybe like headline 73. Maybe, assuming they'll nick all this is probably going to be headlining, but I think it has the potential to be like a show stealer of the anniversary show if they're going to continue forward with it. Like I love no disqualification stuff. It's so fun. People can really be outside of their element and really do some cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, they could also go in the direction, of course, of the working splitting, because like there was like that tease of dissension between the two of them. Not a bad problem to have, but because like they're two very talented wrestlers, and I love a good Haas match and two big guys wailing on each other. That is in my wheelhouse. But NWA has several tag teams who are kind of like at odds with each other, including the tag team champions, Aaron Stevens and Junior Kratos. They're at odds, and like so are well, you know, it feels like there's more tag teams that don't get along than get along right
it's
now.
It's not even just NWA. It's so many of the tag teams in WWE too, dude. It's like it's a problem right now in professional wrestling. They're like breaking up quality tag teams and then like throwing people together. It's like, no, like we want the substance, the organic chemistry. I mean, obviously sometimes breaking up tag teams after a while is good because it gives you like a fresh opponent. Obviously they have history built in, but I feel like it's been happening too much lately.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a shame because like tag team wrestling, like there's not only are you building the conflict between the teams, but you can also build on like the connection between the tag team partners themselves. Yeah. There's so much, there's rich soil to tell good stories. And it's just a shame that it feels like no company sees that. Maybe AEW has some quality stuff going on.
They're faction based. Like AEW is doing amazing things, like with their factions and all that, and like same with Stardom. Like they're based basically in factions, so they're doing amazing things. But like NWA, WWE, like everybody's just breaking up. It feels like we're losing everybody.
It's heartbreaking. Like this is what I got. That's what got me into wrestling initially, like tag team wrestling. But it is what it is. We move on to the main event of the evening. It's the triple threat qualifier for the national championship. The winner of this match will be facing JTG. Before we get to that, though, we have a new commentary team. Joe Galli is sitting with two former national champions in Trevor Murdoch and Aaron Stevens. Aaron Stevens has broken his chair. He is just like he's like lower than the table itself. He's just like something like that. I like Stevens as a babyface, but it was nice to see him kind of like return to like this this character work that got him popular in the first place. I was laughing out loud at this. You'll have to excuse me, I'm gushing.
It's the small things though, honestly, sometimes in wrestling like that really pop you.
Absolutely. The match itself, like it's a triple threat match, but more accurately, it's a handicap situation. We got Pero. He's introduced alongside his partner Odinson, but again, he's taken on two opponents in strictly business. They told a really good story here because Pero, like he was beating them both down, like no problem until the numbers got the better of him, and like. What was great is like strictly business was wrestling very sportsmanlike. They were very courteous and like it was very chain wrestling. But whenever Pero started to get up and gain ground, they just stopped whatever they were doing and just jumped Pero again. Like Pero looked like $1 million because of that little aspect.
You know, that happens though. Like it just like instantly reminding me of like DX against John Cena at Survivor Series 2009. Well, obviously that turned out different, but going in like you in a triple threat, it's essentially like a 2-on-1 handicap match. And obviously you're going to eventually have some dissension between the tag team partners when they realize what's at stake. But I think that adds a whole nother like dynamic. It's not just a regular triple threat match. It kind of is a 2-on-1 handicap match, but it's also a triple threat match, and so much is at stake there, like the two partners, and then you have this third party factor, and there's a lot going on there. But I tend to like those matchups, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly not a new thing like that they did tonight. There wasn't groundbreaking, but they like what's old is new again. What they did, they executed very well. You saw that strictly business started to like they were sportsmanlike, but that started to unravel the more ground that Pero gained. Like it was just two two stories like connecting in a like very interesting way. The finish comes with a double superplex on Pero. Adonis beckons his partner to climb to the top rope, and while he's doing so, Adonis picks up the 1-2-3 on Pero while his partner is distracted. We are going to get JTG versus Chris Adonis at some point for the national championship triple threat match. Though, before we start speculating on what that championship match could look like, what'd you think of the match after the result?
I mean, like Chris Adonis and JTG are basically my childhood. Like growing up with the wrestling, like they're definitely part of my childhood. Like when I first started watching, so it's kind of a cool callback, and to see like them going forward now in 2021, I think it's gonna be a quality matchup. Obviously, like Adonis is more jacked in everything, and so he's more power based, but JTG is really funny and comedic sometimes, so it's gonna be cool how they interact with each other.
I don't know if you've actually seen JTG recently.
Yeah,
but
I know he's jacked.
He's
too.
gotten huge
He's jacked too.
It's
But
true. He's no
yeah.
Adonis, but like
Yeah.
that's not the JTG I remember from like 2008 WWE.
Yeah.
It's the past two matches he's had in NWA. He did a triple threat match, much like they did tonight. He did a one-on-one match with Fred Rosser at the pay-per-view. He is just like, he has put it together. Like, this is not the JTG I remember. And he was great. But this new guy is just like, I think he's like the complete package. I think they have a bona fide superstar in JTG, and I really hope they invest in him.
That's important too, especially with somebody who's kind of reinvented himself. It's important to kind of book them properly and push them and not have this start-stop kind of dynamic. Not that we've seen that with him, but just from knowing the wrestling business, sometimes they fall into those habits.
Absolutely. So top to bottom of the card, does this episode of Power make you want to come back and watch the next one?
Honestly, I think I'm so biased towards the women, but from everything that you're telling me, I feel like I am going forward, because there's a lot of buzz garnering around leading up to the pay-per-view. So they're going to be on pressure to produce pretty much. And so you would kind of expect or hope them to. So I think so too. I think I'm going to be tuning in, obviously barring if I'm not at work, because I normally work on these days. But I definitely think I'm definitely going to be tuning in more going forward. I might not always know what's going on, because again, I'm still new, but I definitely look forward to it.
Right on. I think this is my last note about JTG. Yeah, I hope they gave him a contract too. With all the contract uncertainties in NWA, there's some certain people you want to see stick around, and yeah, JTG is one of them in my case. Absolutely. Ella J, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm going to give you a moment to like plug your social media and your present projects. But before I do, I just want to let viewers know that Love Wrestling has been proudly raising money for the Trevor Project all month, and that's going to culminate this Thursday on a special edition of Quizplex. That's our monthly pub trivia show in which I host. Usually it's members of our amazing growing community here at Love Wrestling, but we got some special guests lined up for this next game. I'm going to be joined by Nicole Matthews, Vita Scott, Randy Myers. We are going to have a lot of fun doing a charity game of trivia. And if you're watching on Twitch, you will be able to participate. Prizes are going to be up for grabs for you guys. You're not eligible if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, though you can still watch. But if you want to compete, please join us on Twitch. We're going to have a great night on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ella, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Please let the audience know where to follow you on social media and everything else that you're up to.
Oh gosh, how much time you got, Zach?
I'll try
to keep it really brief. You can follow me personally on Twitter at It's Ella J, and you can listen to a Wrestling Gal podcast basically anywhere you get your podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and all your major podcasting platforms, and a Wrestling Gal on Twitter and Instagram. And ironically, tomorrow I will be dropping a new episode of Women's Wrestling Focus on SE Scoop's YouTube channel, all about NWA EMPOWERRR. So that'll be fun. That'll be right around the time of GAW TV, which, speaking of tomorrow, it's tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a great episode, and GAWCAST will be following shortly. So yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Ella, once again, this was a wonderful, wonderful chatting NWA with you. Everyone who's joining us, if you're joining us on Twitch, we're going to be putting you over following today's stream. So if you're following us on, if you're watching on Twitch, that's where we're going to jump to. YouTube, Facebook, well, we're just going to go off air. So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be back next week with a new episode of Power Out.